Hey, what's up all of you beautiful subscribers? I'm Jack Chapple, and today we're talking about one of the investment principles of the super rich, and that is the power of appreciation. So this is different than depreciation. This is appreciation. So what's the definition? Well, it's kind of simple. The definition of appreciation is pretty much the increase in value of an investment or asset over time. So this is fairly common sense to everyone. You buy a stock at $50, goes up to $55, it's appreciating $5. So if your house price, let's say you buy it at $200,000, goes up to $220,000, it's appreciated $20,000. So that's what appreciation is. But how can you use this tool to essentially accelerate how much money you're making? How do the rich use this? All right, I'm going to give you a couple examples here about how people living very similar middle-class lives and how the power of appreciation, if someone uses it versus someone doesn't, that can be the difference between one of them becoming a millionaire or multimillionaire and one of them still being paycheck to paycheck. And how maybe even one of them can become a multimillionaire or even build up a whole empire. So that's the examples we're going to cover in this video here. So how can you use this for yourself? So let's jump into this here. So let's take a 20-year-old. A lot of you are about 20, 25, 30 years old out there. Say a 20-year-old can buy a house, let's say in a metropolitan area. So first of all, so let's say maybe they're 30 years old. Okay, so 20-year-old might be a little tough. 30-year-old buying a house in a metropolitan area. It's not an investment property. It's just you're buying a house for yourself. Okay? So it's in a metropolitan area, so like Toronto, New York, Chicago, Los Angeles, a place where home prices have increased by quite a bit over the last 25, 30, even 50 years by a lot. In most cities they have. So on average, it increases by 5 to 10% of the original price you bought it for every year. All right, so that's general the rule in those areas. So that's quite a lot. So it appreciates 5 to 10% of the value almost every year. It's a ton of money. Okay, so the perfect example of this actually is that in 1991, the average house price in the United States was $110,000, and today it's about $280,000 to $290,000. So housing prices have gone up a ton, and that's because of appreciation. Let's get to the examples though. Case 1, C1. All right, so again, 30-year-old making a decent amount of money, but this person decides to rent. Okay, so this person decides to rent, and we'll say that they can rent for quite a bit of money. Let's say they're doing pretty okay for a 30-year-old, $1,500 a month. They live in a city, so that's kind of maybe a below average rent, to be honest, in a lot of cases. But $1,500 a month in rent, this is metropolitan area, so they could be in the suburbs where it's a little bit cheaper. There we go. We found a workaround. All right. So we're going to say that they rent for quite a long time. They decide that they want to rent because they don't want the hassle of home ownership. There's lots of reasons. Maybe they're a little bit mobile. They like to move around to different parts of the city. They want to try downtown, whatever. And they do this for about 20, 25 years. I've seen a lot of people do this, actually. So they do this for 25 years. And doing the math on this means that over the course of those 25 years, they would have put towards rent $450K. And I know this doesn't have to do with the appreciation yet, but I'm just laying out the example here. So this is a typical city living person, 30 years old. Maybe they want to buy a place when they're 50, somewhere around there, 50, 55. And they spent $450,000 just on rent. Okay? Keep that in mind. All right, we're going to go to case 2 here. This person has the exact same job, exact same pretty much everything, except they decide to stay in one place relatively, in the metropolitan area, okay? So instead, what they do is they do $1,500 a month, $1,500 a month towards a mortgage. So instead, they put that money, now usually it's actually, by the way, if people don't know this, it's usually a lot cheaper to get a mortgage than it is to rent the same place. That's because when you think about it, the landlord has to make money for a tenant. So the landlord's mortgage might be $1,300, $1,200, $1,100. You're paying $1,500, so the landlord's taking home $400. plus expenses. So they're probably profiting off you about $100 to $200 a month from this one property. But anyways, we're going to say that the mortgage is $1,500 a month. And so that allows them to buy a $350K to probably $450K home. And they buy a house. So instead, they decide to buy a property. Okay? So over 25 years, we have to do a little bit of math here. 25 years. That's how long the mortgage is. So that's why I did the example up here. So 25 years is the typical length of the average amortization of a mortgage. So pretty much how long a mortgage lasts. And then every few years, you usually have to get a different interest rate, but that's a whole different story. But we're going to say 3%. So your mortgage rate is 3%, meaning that, if you put in $450,000 into a mortgage, you do have to pay the bank a premium. So the bank has to make money too. They might make, I think I did the math on this here. They make about $15,000 on this transaction. So out of your $450,000 mortgage, about $435K goes towards equity in your house. So already, over the course of 25 years, this person, so case number two has a $435 account, $435,000 account, trading account, or not trading account, $435,000 net worth. The other person might only have a few $1,000s, computers, cars, whatever. But this person owns flat out a $435,000 house. Okay? And so actually, I did a little bit of a wrong here for my calculation actually. So this person was supposed to be in an area, not in a city, but this person was supposed to be, actually, we'll say it's a city, but we'll say it's part of a city that people didn't want to live in, a lot of crime. It didn't appreciate very much. Maybe this only goes up a few percent, maybe a percentage point a year or less. So this person, bad area, it goes to, let's say, $500,000 over the course of those 25 years. After adjusting for inflation. So it doesn't appreciate that much. Okay? So here's the deal. Here's where the magic comes in. We also have the case number 3 of this exact same person, okay? So all of this here applies except for the bad area. So this does not apply, all of this applies. So check, 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 and check. This all applies to case number 3. But they decide to live in a good area. It's an appreciating area, it's upcoming, population growth is 3 to 5% per year, maybe a little bit more. Immigration, whatever, as housing demand goes up, lots of people want to move there. So this home appreciates at the average rate of a city. So what was that? It was somewhere around 5 to 10% a year. So 5 to 10% appreciation. So what happens to this person? Well, they're living all very similar lives. They have the same job, same income, same payments going towards housing. Everything's the same. Difference is their living, their house, where they're living, and essentially are they renting or buying. So this person lives in a good area, appreciates at an average rate. This person, their house, over 25 years, is now worth between $1 and $1.5 million. This exact same house in a different neighborhood that appreciates more is worth 2 to 3 times as much as in a bad area. So this is the power of appreciation. Is that if you can pick an investment, I'm going to get into one more thing here actually. I might do one more example actually. So just hold on a second. But there's something to think about when you buy a property. Okay? And that is, if you value not just living there, but if you want to value as an investment, you have to think, is the area that I'm buying in, is it going to appreciate over time? If you're buying a place in a city, which is tough to do for a young person, I get it, I understand. But let's say you're in the neighboring city to one of the big cities like I am, where it's affordable, a little bit affordable for a young person. And it's understandable that a young person can buy a place. So it's something that you have. Oh, did I do this wrong here? Yeah, okay. That looks like 17 million here. That looks a little bit off here. What I'm trying to say here is that appreciation is the difference between you being worth $400,000 in 25 years or 1.5 million. All right? So when you make an investment, you have to think about this stuff. So this is one of the more important examples here when I bring up rental properties. So let's say you like real estate a lot like I do and you want rental properties. So you generally have to think about two things here. One of which is cash flow and the other is appreciation. All right, I'll give you a personal example. So I was looking for investment properties 5 years ago in Niagara Falls. 5 years ago, I think. 4 or 5 years ago, somewhere around there. And so they were in Niagara Falls, and they had a really good cash flow. We're talking, one of the places was 4 units. Yeah, I think it was like 500 grand or less. Maybe it might have even been less than 400 grand, 300 grand. It was a really good deal. The area that it was in was not great, but it wasn't too far from the well-off area. So, I mean, it could have been better. It was kind of next to a nightclub, so what do you expect? But the tenants there seemed to be okay and nice. The building looked fine. It was old, but fine. But the value of real estate in Niagara Falls has been one of the very few parts, at that time, was one of the few parts that had been dropping in Ontario. So the value of that property has been going down, but you're getting cash flow, good cash flow. So when you're investing in a property, that's something that a lot of times you have to think about. Are you buying the property for cash flow? So you're looking to make that $400 a month. $500 a month, $1,000 a month, $150 a month. Do you want that or do you value potential appreciation? So are you willing to buy up a place in New York and maybe not make any money from your tenant renting out from you, but it might appreciate 10% in 1 year, where maybe you buy a place for $1 million in New York, an apartment somewhere, duplex, and it goes up to 1.1 the next year. You made $100,000 versus, even though you didn't have cash flow. You made $100,000 on paper, right? So that's something that you really have to think about when you're buying a place. And so here's the power of appreciation. Let's say, let's bring it back here. Let's say this person does this for 5-10 years. The place appreciates, they get some equity, they put in, I don't know what the math is on that, but I'm guessing that's somewhere around, let's see, I'll just do the quick math in my head here. Let's say that works out to 18 grand or so, 18 grand a year. So they put in about $50,000 worth of equity over 3 years. Let's say 5-10 years, let's say they put in $100,000 plus of equity. Okay, so they put in 100 grand of equity. They decide to move. The house is now valued at $600,000, $700,000. All right, so they've pretty much doubled the appreciation of their property. They can cash out, they get tax benefits. They all of a sudden have an additional $300,000 of cash plus their investments of $400,000. Compared to this person up here, they have an additional $300,000 compared to this person here. What do they use that for? Maybe they invest in a different property. Maybe they get stocks. Maybe they use that to build their own business. All of a sudden, this person has a few $100,000 head start on these other people that are living the same lives. So this is how appreciation can work specifically in real estate. This applies to like the stock market and stuff too. It's a little bit different because this is a mortgage is a forced investment or a forced payment to get equity in an investment. Meanwhile, in the stock market, you have to keep adding your own income into it, and it's not really forced. Like if you don't pay your mortgage, you lose your house. If you don't invest in stocks, nothing happens, right? So, but in the stock market, it's relatively the same thing too. If you keep investing like this and your assets appreciate over time, maybe you sell off, maybe you keep adding to your stock market portfolio and so on. It's quite similar, but I think real estate's the best example to actually show this because it's more real to people. One of the things that I do like about real estate versus the stock market is that real estate's tangible. You can, if you buy a property, you can go and see it and, rent it out yourself, and it's physical, you meet people, right? The stock market, it's like if you buy Apple, it's like, you own an iPhone, but like you don't really have an attachment to that investment. In this you do, and everyone lives in a place. Not everyone has an iPhone too. So it's a little, again, there are similarities in real estate and stock market regarding appreciation, but again, this could be a whole separate video. I don't want to ramble here. So if you want to know more about this, I have a ton of other videos on pretty much appreciation, real estate, and the stock market. So please check out my stock market and real estate playlist on my YouTube channel. I have tons more videos like this. So just go check those out. Go click on them right now, actually. And please subscribe to this channel. And when after you subscribe, well, then click on one of those playlists, and I'll see you guys in about 5 seconds, hopefully 10 seconds.